Hey, welcome to the fifth day of the JavaScript series, arrays. Today we'll be learning all about arrays. If you want to check out the rest of the episodes, it's in a playlist called the JavaScript series. All right, let's start off. So first in the series, we're gonna in this exercises, we're gonna declare an empty array, which you just do by giving the array a variable, a name, and then putting two square brackets. That gives you an empty array. You can put anything in the array, numbers, strings, booleans, any kind of data type you can put in the array. As you can see, we've logged it into the console. All right, the next exercise is to declare an array with more than 5 elements. You can find the length of the array. The length of the array is how many items are there in the array. And then we're gonna do some scripting to find the first, middle, and last items of the array. So here I'm creating an array called car companies. The car companies are Tesla, Rivian, Ford, Honda, Peugeot, Toyota, and Porsche. All right, the first exercise is to find the length of this array. To find the length of an array, you write the name of the array, and you wait, I'm sorry. Why am I doing that? Constant find first item. Oh, okay, I forgot to find the length of the array. I was looking like, what's going on? That is not how you find the length of an array. To find the length of the array, I would have just written car companies dot length with brackets, and that would have given me the number of items in the array. Later on in this exercises, we're gonna what do you call it? We're gonna find the length of a whole lot of arrays. So I'll talk about it then. But so to find the first item, we put it in. We put the name of the array and then square brackets that with the index of the item we're trying to find. JavaScript is zero based, so when we count, we start from zero. So it'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The index is the number that denotes where the item we're looking for in the array. So Tesla would be at index 0, and Porsche would be at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Porsche would be at index 6. So to find the index of the first item, which would be at index 0, we write car companies, the square brackets, and the number of the index, which is 0 in this case. And if you check in the console on the left-hand side, bottom left, you'll see Tesla written out. That's the first item. Now, to find the middle item, you have to do some math. You have to make sure that if it's an even or an odd array. That is, if the length of the array is even or if the length of the array is odd. In the last series, we've learned how to find if something is even or odd using an if statement. So as you can see here, we found the length of the array, and we said if it's even, that is if when the number of items in the array is divided by 2, if it doesn't give any remainders, which makes it even. We find the items in the middle of that array. It will be 2 items, because if you have an array of 4 items, there'll be 1, 2, and then 3, 4. So there's no perfect middle. So we have to do the math that finds that if in the case where it's even, you find the middle item is going to be the first middle item and the second middle item. So the middle comp 1 is car companies dot length divided by 2 minus 1. So we have the array, and then we subtract we subtract 1 to get the first middle item, which is, so if I'm counting from 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 would be the first middle item, and 3 would be the second middle item. So when you divide the array by the length of by its length, when you divide the length of the array by 2, you get the second middle number. But there are 2 middle items, so you have to subtract the 1 to get the first middle item. And then you store it in a variable called middle item. Car companies at the index of mid comp 1, which is the first middle item, and then call company 2 for the second middle item. And then as you can see, we have an even array, so we got Honda and Peugeot as the middle items. And then the last item is just the length of the array minus 1. I know I cut off pretty quickly there, but as you can see, the last item is equals to call companies dot length minus 1. That's usually the last item at the array, which is call companies dot length, not 1. All right, next it was declare an array of more than 5 items. We're gonna name the array mixed data types. We're gonna populate the array with different data types, and then we're gonna find the length of the array. So we have a mixed data types array with a number, a string. I'll let you know what else is in there as soon as I can see. A number that's followed by 2 strings, a boolean, another number, an object, and another string. The length of the array, as you can see, is mixed data types dot length, which gives us 7. I'm sorry, you don't have to put the brackets. It's not a method. It's just a dot length. So it's an array method, but you can also use it on strings, because JavaScript converts the strings into an array and then gives you and returns the length. All right, for the next exercise, we're declaring an array called IT companies. We're gonna assign the values Google, Microsoft, Apple, OpenAI, Amazon, Meta, and Anthropic. Those are all IT companies. And we're gonna print the contents of the array to the console. So we have our first array. Now we have to print the contents to the console. So we just print the whole, you put console.log and you write the IT companies, the name, the variable that you store the array in, which is IT companies in this case. Then the next, we're gonna find the length of the array, which is IT companies.length. And it gives us a length of 7. Once again, the answers are in the bottom left in the console. So now we're gonna find the first, middle, and the last company. As we saw earlier, to find the first item in an array, we write the variable the array was stored in, and 0. 0 is always the first index. And then for the middle, once again, we do a calculation. So like we'll first start with a word variable to store the value of the middle company in. Then we say if IT companies that, we do the calculations to find if it's an even or odd number. That is, if the length of the array is an even and odd number. Then we store the first middle value, which is the length of the array minus 1, divided by 2 minus 1, I apologize. Divided by 2 minus 1, which will give us the first. Like I said, if you're counting from 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 would be the first middle item and 3 would be the second middle item, which you'll find by IT companies.length divided by 2. So that the length of the array divided by 2. And in the else portion, right, then you take it and store it in the middle IT variable, because in a JavaScript, things are scoped, so everything we're doing in that bracket is not accessible outside of the if else statement. Everything between those curly braces, it's not accessible outside of it, because it's scoped. It allows you to use the same variables in your different functions and methods and not have to worry about mixing the names up, because if you can't call it outside of the brackets. So we usually store it in a separate variable to make sure that we can call it outside. So in the else portion is where, in the case where it's odd, we don't need to do the if it's odd, there'll be one middle number, like 5. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 would be the middle number, so we only need the IT companies.length divided by 2. And we logged it. We got Google and OpenAI. All right, the middle IT. Oh, I'm sorry. Right, console.log middle AT, what's going on here? I'm under the impression I logged. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So the Google is the first item in the first index, and the middle IT is OpenAI. That is the middle company because we have a seven item array. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What the middle number is? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 4 would be the middle number, or is it 3? 3 would be no, 4 would be the middle number, which comes out to be OpenAI. Now we're just logging the indexes. So there's a 1, 0, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. 3 is the middle. I'm sorry, 3 would be the middle. So OpenAI is the middle index. For this one, I used a map because I didn't want to write all those indexes over. So I just mapped through the array. Mappers and functions, we're going to cover them, I think, 2 chapters from now. And we'll look at our higher order functions. And a map is a way to, basically a loop, to loop through the array and then affect it. The map is used for affecting the things in the array. So if you want to do something to those items in the array, you use a map. And here we just used it to change all the companies to uppercase. So we mapped, and for each company, we want the output to be in uppercase. And so you see there in the console. Then I think after we made everything uppercase, we're gonna print company names, current players in tech. So we just take all the IT companies, we join it. Join returns the items in the array without the brackets. So, and then we put it in a template string. We use the template string method. We use the dot join method, and then we put the strings that we want included. And there you have it: Google, Microsoft, Apple, OpenAI, Amazon, Meta, Anthropic are all current players in tech. All right, next we're gonna check if a company exists in an array. If it exists in the array, return the company's name. If not, return company not found. So we're gonna use a prompt. We're gonna say constant query prompt equals please enter a company name. So it's gonna prompt the user for a company name. We're gonna check query load so that when you hit cancel, where that is, there won't be anything in the input. It won't log an error in the console. It's just input validation. It's an input validation thing. You can do it without doing that and it will still work. But if you happen to hit cancel, you'll get an error in the console because when you hit the cancel, it returns null, I think, an empty object, which is null in JavaScript, and that would show an error in your console. It would still, I think it would still work either way, but because this is just an exercise and you will always enter a string. But if you were doing this outside, like in a live situation, you want to always make sure that you do that so that it doesn't return null and cause that error. And then we continue the input validation that if not query load, that is if there's nothing, if the user does not enter anything, please enter, it returns please enter a company name. But if they do enter a company name, it checks to see if the number is included in the array. That's what we use the dot includes for. Then we say the company is on the list, or else the company is not found. That is if they enter a company that's not on the list, it returns that we can't find that company. Here we put Lamborghini, which is not an IT company, so we get company not found. And then we have another one. What are we entering this time? Hopefully an IT company. Google. Yes, we have Google. So, okay. The reason we put the to lowercase is just to make sure that everything matches. I actually made a mistake when I first started and I wrote OpenAI capitalized. So when I typed it in, it kept returning a company not found company. And I'm like, what's going on? Then I realized that it was because in the array, it's capitalized. But when I entered, I wasn't capitalizing it, so I just changed everything to lowercase. So it converts it all to lowercase, and then it yeah. Then so when it doesn't matter how they enter it into the prompt, it'll always just convert it to lowercase and check against that. But you also have to make sure that in your array you have made it all lowercase. I guess you could have spelled it properly, but yeah, that kind of negates the input validation. All right, next we're filtering out the companies with multiple O's in their names without using the filter method. For this one, we use the for loop. You start off by setting two arrays. One to store the companies. I'm sorry, I wrote countries instead of companies. You need an array to store the countries that do have the multiple O's, and the companies without multiple O's. As you see, we stored it outside of the for loop as usual because it's like I said, JavaScript. Things are scoped in JavaScript. So if we don't do that, we won't be able to return it outside of the for loop. So in the for loop, we are saying let I equals O, I less than company IT companies dot length, I plus plus, simple for loop, usual for loop. We set company, that is the like this will be like we were right now for of loop. So uh for let company of IT companies. So company is just every company in the IT companies array. So we're setting the IT companies at I, at the index of I. Now we set a count like we're doing an addition. Now for let J is just another loop inside of the original loop. Now we're using company instead of IT companies array. So the new array that the for loop returns, that is the company, which is each company's name. And then we're breaking the company's name down into each letter and then checking to see if that company includes O. If it includes O, it adds one to count, which was equal to 0 at the beginning. So after we've done that, then we create another if, because you see we put count outside of the second for loop for the same reason. So we can use it outside of it. So now if count, that is if count, which is companies include if there occurs a situation where the company name has multiple O's and O count is now greater than 0, well, greater than or equal to 2 in this case, we're going to push it into the companies with multiple O's or companies with multi array. And then if it's I think it's less than 1, if count is less than 1, I think it was less than 1, or is it equal to 1? I think it was less than 1. Yeah, right, less than 1, then we push it into the companies without multiple O's. Less than or equal to 1, then we push it into the companies without multiple O's. And we should get all the companies that only have one O or don't have an O in this array. So we're just gonna wait to log it to see what happens. All right, console.log. And then we also log both arrays. So as you see in the companies with multi-array, we get Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, Amazon, Anthropic, Apple, and Meta. Something is wrong there. Okay, I forgot to put the company that includes as supposed to complete at the index of J. And so when we do that, it fixed itself. All right, I think I got ahead of myself there, and I logged the array just for the next sequence of exercises. That's what the big array is for. But I had to make a copy because the next methods mutate the array. We're gonna sort the array and we're gonna reverse it, which are going to change the original array. So I have to copy it. To copy, you just basically create an array. You use what's called the thread operator, which is the ellipses, and then you put the original array or the variable the original array is stored in, and there you have it. And to sort the array, if it's just an array of strings, you can just put dot. They use the sort method, which is what we did here. As you can see, it sorted it. No, okay, I'm still logging. The first array is the array sorted, which is the Amazon, Anthropic, Apple, Google, Meta, Microsoft, OpenAI. And then I logged the original array just to show that it hasn't been mutated. Now, if the array contains numbers, you're gonna have to use a callback function in your sort. I think we get an example of that a little bit later, and then we'll talk about it then. Then to reverse, we use the reverse method. Once again, we're using the copied array so as not to mutate the original array or change it. We want to still have that information preserved. So reverse, the reverse method and the sort method they mutate the original array. So if you're going to use them and you still want to maintain your original information, you still want it to be the way it was when you first started out, then it's a good idea to make a copy of the array. There's another way to copy an array, but it escapes me at the moment. The spread operator is easy, so I just stuck with that one. But there's another way to make a copy. Okay, right. You can just itcompanies.slice and not put anything in the array. I mean, since you're not slicing from any index, it just creates a whole new array of the array that you were originally doing. That is, you put the slice, but you don't put any indexes to slice the from and to array. You just let it slice the whole array. So it returns the whole array, a copy of the whole array, because slice returns a whole new array. So yeah, but here we're slicing, I think, what was it? We were slice out the first three companies, which is Google, Microsoft, and Apple. We just used the slice. It started from index of 0 all the way to 3. Slice doesn't return the last, the index you end on. So it sliced 0, 1, and 2, but it didn't slice 3. It stops at the index before the end index. All right, next we are slicing out the last three companies. Since it's, what do you call it? We just put a -3. So instead of slicing, I guess, to the right, which is how it slices normally, when you put a negative in front of the index, it slices backwards. So it sliced from the last three items. In this case, we got Amazon, Meta. Wait, is that it? Or am I still behind? No, it's not. Why have I not logged that? We got Google, Microsoft, and Apple. All right, we're slicing the original array, not the sorted array. That's what I was like. I'm like, this doesn't look right. All right, so yeah, the first array is Google, Microsoft, and Apple's. That's for the slice of the first three companies from the original array. That is the IT companies array, not the copy that was sorted. And then the second array is Amazon, Meta, and Anthropic. Those are the last three items in the original IT companies array. Here we're slicing out the middle. So with the same thing, the same way we found the middle companies, we create the variable to store it so we can call it outside of the if-else statement. And then we find the middle items. Then to slice the middle items, how do I do that? I forgot. I'm having trouble keeping them. But yeah, anyways, console dialog, the middle company. Oh, okay, right. We slice from the middle, and in the case of an even, we use the dot slice on the IT company after storing the middle company in a variable. And for an even, we slice from that middle company and add 2, because remember, slice doesn't include the stopping index, the end index. So we have to make it +2 in this case. And then in the case of a NOD, we slice from mid and mid +1, because we only need one item from the middle index. There's only one middle in an odd array. So we got OpenAI back as our middle array, which is true, because that's what we got also when we weren't slicing out. We were just finding out the middle index of the array. So there we go. And now we have to remove the first company. To remove, you use the shift method. So you just type the name of the array. Also, this is also another method that mutates the array. So it's a good idea to create a copy of the array first, and then you can use the shift method on it. Methods like shift, push, pop, and unshift mutate the array because you're taking stuff out and putting stuff into the array. So it's a good idea to make a copy of the array before you use them. So to remove the first, we use shift. As you can see in the removed, the removed item, it returns the first items when you use shift, which is Google. And then I locked the second company. As you can see now, the IT companies, the IT companies one doesn't have Google in it anymore. It was the first item. Now it's removed. Now the first item is Microsoft. And then we're gonna remove the middle companies. So once again, we make a copy of the array. We create a variable to store said company in. We do the even and odd check. Even if it's even, return the two middle arrays. If it's odd, return the one middle array. Don't forget to math.flow your odd case. I tend to always forget that, and I got some weird answers. Because if you divide and it gives a decimal, it's gonna break your code. So it's always important to use that middle math.flow, when doing the odd check. For this one, we use the splice. Splice, not a slice. Splice just requires you can use splice to add things to and take. You can use splice to take things out and add things. Like in this case, we spliced from the middle one, that is the first middle item, and we told the next value in the splice is how many items you wanted to remove. So we took that, we started from the middle one, that is whatever is at the index of mid one, and then we sliced two. So we took out two things from the array. We returned those two things. And then in the odd case, which is still only one, we slice from the mid, that is whatever we get from the equation, and we only took one thing out. If you want to add things to it, so after you've done the whatever you want to remove, you just put another comma and you add the things you want to add at those indexes. All right, so we have the removed middle. And now we have logged the companies. So removed OpenAI. Now we have a Google, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Meta, and Anthropic. I added another company to the array just to show the even case. As you can see, I returned OpenAI and Amazon. Those two have been removed from the original array. Now we have from a 7-person array to a 5-person array. I think it's a 6-person array. So I made it an 8-person array. Okay, I changed it back. They changed it back, so it's now Google, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Meta, and Anthropic. All right. The next thing to do is remove the last company. Once again, we're making a copy of the array. To remove last, use the pop. Pop takes out the last, whatever's at the last index of the array. And push is just to push things. Push things at the last index. Unshift, add things at the front, at the 0 index. So we're removing the last item, which will be Anthropic in this case. So we should now get an array of just Google, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, and Meta. Well, I made a copy so that it should return the full array. But there we have it. Anthropic was the last item, and when we log the IT company's array now, the copy of the IT company's array, which is copy 3, and we get that Google, Microsoft, Apple, OpenAI, Amazon, and Meta, with the Anthropic removed. And finally, we are going to clear the array. To clear an array, you just set its length to 0. So we're making a copy, and we're going to set the length of IT companies 4, which is the fourth copy, to 0. And we can log it, and we should get back an empty array. Of course, I'm being a silly bit. Okay, I'm just logging both. I thought I was being silly, and I forgot that it was a copy, and I was logging the original array, which isn't gonna give me the result I want. Okay, now I see what I'm doing. I'm logging all the copies I created just to show what's happening in each case. There you have it. So all the arrays are displayed. All right, this one I messed up. I made a mistake, but I corrected it in the GitHub. It's corrected in the GitHub repo. I messed up the order of creating the files in what do you call it, in the index, so I couldn't call the arrays as requested in this JavaScript file. But I later learned, or I think I googled it, or I might have learned it from a Copilot, that to do that you have to put it in a certain order. So this main script file has to be the last script you call in the head of your index, or however you call your JavaScript. I usually call it in the head and use a defer so it doesn't slow things down when the page loads. But I think usually you call it at the bottom of your body. That is the standard way. But like I still call it in the head, and I just use a defer. It works about the same way. And then you can call those arrays or whatever you put in those other JavaScript files in the main file, or whatever file you want to call be the ones you call all those other things from. You have to put that last when stacking your script in your script tags in the index. But it's corrected in the GitHub repo if you want to check it out, if you need to see what I'm talking about. All right, the next one is we're using a split to split a string into an array. You can split a string into an array, and you can join an array into a string. So when you want to turn a string into an array, you split it, and when you want to turn an array into a string, you join it. So here I just use the regex to help me to remove all the punctuations, so only the words are returned, and then we have all those an array of words. You put the split, the quotes to how you want it to be split. Here I split it by space, and then I use the regex to match just words, and then we got the array. Then we log the length of the array, which gave us 13 items in the array. Now this one, we have a shopping list. Now in the shopping list, we're going to add stuff, and we're going to remove some stuff, and then we're going to change the things, the name of the items at a certain index in the array. So the first thing we did was we unshifted meat to the front. So the array now has a meat in front of it. Meat, milk, coffee, tea, and honey. It's above everything below here is for level 2 question 1. I am so sorry about that, but yeah, it's fixed in the repo. You can check it out there. All right, the next one, we added sugars. Also push puts it at the end. So if you look at the array, meat is in front, sugar is at the back. Now we're gonna remove honey from the array. So I use the index of method to find what index honey was at, which is 4. and then I spliced and removed 1. So I took honey out by I started at its index and only removing 1 item, which is the item at that index. And we now have an array which is meat, milk, coffee, tea, and sugar. Now the next thing we have to do is change tea to Earl Grey. So first I once again use the index of method to find the index that tea is at. Then I set shopping list bracket at the index at the 3rd index to change it to our Earl Grey. And there we have it, an array of milk, meat, milk, coffee, Earl Grey, and sugar. All right. Next, we're gonna check if Ethiopia exists in the countries array, which it does, so we don't need to do anything. Dot includes, we use the dot includes method to check if things are in an array. Next, we have to check if SAS exists in the web text array, which it doesn't. And since it doesn't, we have to add it. We add to it by using a push. Push puts it at the end of the array. If you want to put it at the beginning of the array, you use unshift. And if you want to add it at a certain index, you use splice. Usually, so far as I've seen, we usually just push things into the array. We don't really add it at any specific index. We just push it into the array, and it usually just goes into the last item. Okay, now we have to concatenate 2 arrays. To add an array, you can write the variable that stores each array, and use the spread operator on them. Or you can just use the first array you're trying to concatenate and then use the concat method on it and put the name of the second array that you are trying to add to it or concatenate with it. So here, this is the first method, which is the spread operator method. The spread operator is the ellipses. So we have front end and back end. And then we log it, and as you can see, it creates one whole array with all the items in there. And then for the concat method, we're just gonna write the name of the first array, and then we're gonna use the concat method on that first array and put the name of the second array on there. And it should also have the same output, the same result as the spread operator method. All right, there we go. We have our concatenate array. Now we have another array of ages. We're gonna find the minimum age and the maximum age. We're gonna find the median, we're gonna find the average, and we're gonna find the range. And then we're gonna compare the value of the minimum average and the minimum maximum average. Or minimum minus average and maximum minus average. This is the case where we have an array of numbers, and you need to use a callback function in this case, because numbers are key to certain codes. And if you sort just by trying to use the first character, it will only take the first character if you don't put the callback function. So 100 would somehow be greater than 19 or 22 because, less than. It will sort first. It will sort before, let's say a number like 22, because 1 comes before 2, and it's only using the first characters to sort. So the callback function prevents that from happening, as I show you here. As you see in the second one, which is a copy, we put a spread operator, which is the ages, and then we put 100. That's just a new copy with 100 in the array. Now, when we sort it without putting a callback function, you see that the 100 comes before the 19. I guess because 1 and 0 is greater than 1 and 9. I don't really understand the magic that's going there, but I think it has something to do with the codes for the numbers. But anyways, it's whenever you're working with numbers and you want to sort, put a callback function. And that'll fix whatever the issue is. That's just how you have to do it. All right, now we're finding the minimum and the maximum age. So I mean, this was easy. You just sort the array, and the minimum, if you sort it forwards like that, is if you sort it from minimum to maximum, then the minimum age would be the age, or the minimum would be the item at the first index or the 0 index, and the maximum will be the item at the last item, the last index. If you sort it backwards, that is in the callback function, you put b minus a, which will sort the array backwards instead of from lowest to highest. They'll sort it from highest to lowest. And your max value would be the first index, and your minimum value will be the last index. Yeah, I've sorted it straight. That is from lowest to highest. So my minimum value is the index at index 0, and my maximum value is at the last index of the array. And we're just writing that out to log it. As you can see, our max value is 26, and our minimum value should be 19. Right? All right, to find the median, we need to find the minimum middle age or ages if it's an even array, and then we divide that by 2, and we have our median. If it's an odd array, then it's just why does that formula look wrong to me? Middle ages. I think I corrected somewhere along the way. But yeah, so if it's an even array and you return 2 middle items, you add them together and divide them by 2, and you get the median. If it's an odd array, then the median is the age, the item in the middle. It is the middle. You don't have to do any math. It's just the middle. So here we're gonna find the middle ages, the 2 middle ages. The same way we always find the middle of any array. The middle item is always the middle item. So we use the same way. You check if it's an even length array or an odd length array. Once you get your middle items, you add them together, divide by 2 to find the median. And if it's an odd array, then you don't need to do any of that, and you just return the middle, or whatever number's at the middle. In this case, I think we have an even array, so it might return the addition. Yeah, I think it was 24 plus 24. Those two. Let's see. Without the 100, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So it's a 10 thing array. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. So 5, 4 and 5 is 20. Actually, 5 and 6 is 24 and 24. 4 and 5 is also 24 and 24. But we return an array for the middle items. We get 24 and 24, and then we add that together, which is 48 divided by 2, which returns 24, which is pretty easy. And if it was odd, then it would be 24. That would be, let's say, a 9 item array. That would be the 5th item, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that would be 5, which would be 24. The item at index of 5, which would be 24. All right. It's a lot to write, but it works out fine. median. I don't know why I wrote it as min instead of mid. I think I'm still thinking about uh the the main max value, but that's the mid, not the min. Median is the formula. I also changed, if you notice, to median 1 plus median 2 divided by 2 for an even array, and if it's an odd array, then mid is the median. All right, for find the average age, we're gonna find the sum of all the ages divided by the number of ages. So to do a sum, to add that is to add all the what do you call it? All the items in the array up. We first create a variable, set it to 0. Then we use a for loop to iterate through the array, and then we add it all together, and then add it to sum, which was 0. So it'll loop through the array, add them all together, and we'll have and add them to sum, which was 0, and any number added to 0 is equal to that number, so we get back the sum of the whole array. I showed the reduce method because I think it's just like the easiest method to add things in JavaScript. So you just use it. It's another higher order function. We'll get to it 2 chapters from now, I think. But as you take the accumulator and the current value, and the 0 at the end is just the same thing as saying let sum is equal to 0. That is, you initialize it with a 0, so it starts from 0. The accumulator would be 0 at the start, and then it just adds the current value to that. It's very short and sweet. I didn't understand it at first, but once I got it, I don't do anything without reduce nowadays. It's just so easy for adding data. You can use it for a whole lot of other things, as we'll see later. It comes very handy when you're finding things in objects and arrays, because you can initialize as an array or an object. It's really up to you. But here we're finding the range, which is the max minus the min. That's easy. We have our max value already stored when we found the max in the array, and we just subtract the min value from that, and we have the range, which was 7, right? Yeah, 7. All right, now we compare the value of the min minus the average, and then the max minus the average, using the absolute method. The absolute method just removes the negative from in front of it and use the absolute value. So we're just doing that, because if you subtract, I think, which one was it? The min from the average, you should get a negative number. I forget. But yeah, so we got 3.8000000. Actually, I used the 2 fixed on it. 2 fixed just brings down the decimal places. You can specify how accurate you want the answer return to be. I should have just used a 2 fixed too, and it would have been 3.80 in the first one and 3.2 in the second one. But anyway, when we compared, if the min comp is greater than the max comp, it says yes. It's true. That is true. The min comp is greater than the max comp. All right, now we're gonna slice the first 10 countries from the array. All right, we're using a different countries array. I think we're actually using the same countries array. So we're just gonna slice the first, or we can just return the last item in the array, because we found the length to be 11 and we're slicing 10 countries. So I mean, the smart thing to do would just be to return the last item in the array. We just sliced -1. I think that's a magic number, and you might there might be a better way to do that, but I just went with the easiest way, like the count how many items are in the array. I mean, there's only 11 items, so why not just return the last item in the array, which removes the first 10, and we got Kenya, I think. Yeah, Kenya. All right, now we're gonna find the middle countries. It's the same thing. We create a variable that stores the that we're gonna use to store the middle count, middle country. I just shortened country to count. But if countries.length modulo 2 equals 0, that is if the length of the array is even, the first middle country is the countries.length divided by 2 minus 1. And the second middle country is the countries.length divided by 2. Then we return an array with countries, that is the original array, at the index of middle 1, and countries at index of middle 2, or else, else, I said or else, that is if it's not even, which is odd. It can either be even or odd. If it's odd, then math.floor, which is to correct any decimal places to return the lowest, to round down to the closest value. And then we just countries.length divided by 2. That is the middle of the array. And the middle country is mid. Why does that feel wrong? I feel like it should have been countries at the index of mid, because mid should just be an index. Right, okay, I'm not bugging. So yeah, right, countries at the index of mid. All right, there we go, and then we return Finland. Finland is the middle country. It's an odd array, so we only got one value back. Now we're gonna split the array into 2. So since I know it's an 11 item array, I just sliced from the first index all the way to the 6th, which I rounded up as the middle point. And then because I figured for the first 5 items, right? Because remember, a slice doesn't return the ending index, so it stops at the index before the value you put as the ending index. And then for the second array, it was just from that index all the way to the end of the array. That is 1 plus 1, the end of the array plus 1. It's 11, so I put 12, so that it'll also return the last item. And there we have it, day 5 arrays complete. See you next time.